What's up, guys, and thank you for watching this video. Hope that you are going to enjoy it. This video is going to be the third part of my most expensive 5-inch build. So the first part was pretty much where I put the frame together, and by the way, this is the Impulse RC Evo 5. The second part is where I added all the hardware on the frame. That would be your flight controller, the ESC motor, the VTX, and the receiver. And that part kind of took way too long. I think the whole video is about close to 50 minutes, so I didn't want to keep it going, so I decided to make a third part. And in this part, what we're going to do is just going to set up the Kiss Ultra. I already bind my receiver to my transmitter, and I also bind my VTX to the gyro 2. So I'm not going to go over that because there is plenty of video on YouTube on how to do that. And myself, I've posted video on how to bind your Express LRS and how to bind your O3 air units. So before we start setup, there's a couple of things I want to go over. First, this setup is going to be for the Ultra using a FedTech ESC. If you're using a BL-LES or a BL-LE32, this may not work for you. I actually never set up the Ultra with BL-LES or BL-LE32. The process may be a little different. And big thing, you need to make sure that you have your receiver bind to your transmitter because some of the process involve setting up Ultra. We're going to be needing to go into a transmitter. We're going to be using the Web Gui for this process. The Web Gui does work with either Chrome or Edge. It does not work with Firefox. Now, if you want, you can also download the configurator. I'm going to put a link for both the Web GUI or the configurator on GitHub. So, first thing we're going to be doing, we're going to be switching to a computer. I'm going to bring up my Chrome. You're going to need to tap this address. I'm going to put it on the screen. And this is the GUI on the web browser. We're just going to plug in our USB. Now the USB is connected, we're going to go and connect. And in my case, I'm connected to COM 14. Depending on your computer, it's going to be a different COM. Let's just go ahead and connect. So this is the first time I plug in this specific flight controller. It's going to ask me to activate it. My flight controller, we're just going to go activate. And right there, you have a little message that asking you if you like to use the Kiss default PID or you want to use the Ultra default PID. The Ultra default PID is much better, so I'll go and click yes on that. Now we are into the configurator, and the first thing I'm going to do, I want to make sure we are running the latest firmware. Right now we have 2.0.3 B52, and to check a firmware or flash a firmware, we're going to go to the FC flasher, and we're just going to go to the remote, select the remote firmware. We're going to click on that. Let's check if we have up to date with our firmware. It looks like we are running the latest one, so we are good, so I don't need to do anything on that. In case you need to update yours, you're just gonna have to click here. Actually, I can just do it just to show you guys, it won't hurt anything. We're gonna go into download. I don't know if it's gonna go through since I already have the firmware. Okay, it's gonna download, and you're just gonna go and flash. And once we get here, let me move this little message. And it's gonna give you about 30 seconds to make up your mind. So I'm gonna go ahead and just click. I click on reconnect. I'm gonna reconnect again. And you got the little progress bar here that lets you know what the process is as far as your firmware update goes. Now the big thing is right now, as the process going, you want to keep it going. You don't want to come out of this page. It does say please do not change the browser. If you do change the browser at this time, you may end up breaking your flight controller. Alright, the process is done. At this point, you can just go ahead and reconnect your computer to your flight controller. sometime it may require you to reboot your flight controller. So let's see. So we are back in right now, and the first thing I'm gonna do, this is not gonna be an extensive deep down breakdown of the configurator. I'm just gonna show you what you need to do to get you flying. And KISS stands for keep it simple silly. GUI is actually pretty easy to use. The first thing, of course, I'm gonna check that to make sure that I have the right type of drone. You do have multiple drone here, so you select the drone that applied to you. In our case, it is a Quad X. And the second part here, I'm gonna set up my ESC. In my case, as I said earlier, I'm using a Fcfc ESC, so the process is much easier with the Fcfc ESC. If you are using a BLLES or a BLLE32, the process is a little more involved. You can see I have my XT60 coming up on the side. I had to flip my ESC, and the way I have mine set up, I went clockwise. So I want to pick this option, which is 90-degree clockwise. If you went the other way, you're going to pick 90-degree counterclockwise. And if you have your ST60 coming out from the back, you don't need to change anything. So we got this done. Now, we're going to go in a general setting. I really don't mess with the general setting, but I just want to show you a couple things. I'm using this shot 2400. And if you are using a BLLE32, I think you're going to be, the highest you can go is this shot 1200. And of course, a BLLES, the highest you can go is this shot 600. And since I'm using a Fcfc, I can also use a Fcfc one wire, but I always use this shot 2400. I don't know why, I just like this shot 2400. Now, after our auxiliary section, we're going to come back to that. But what I'm going to do right now, I'm just going to save this. And we are saved. Don't worry about your PID and everything. We're using the default PID, and as far as I can tell, it does work pretty much on everything. Now, in order to set up our auxiliary channel, we're going to go to the data outputs panel. And as I said, I already have my transmitter connected. So what I'm going to do now, I just want to make sure I have all my channel in the right order. So we got a yaw going from 2000 to 1000, so we're good. A throttle, it's in the right spot. Roll is in the right spot, and pitch, of course, since everything look right, is going to be in the right spot. And now, since I'm using Express LRS, we have to have an arm switch or an arm function on a Fox auxiliary channel, and I usually use this for my arming, and that's working. And for my beeping, I use this switch.
Off. Buzzer. Off.
Perfect. And for my turtle mode, I use this switch, which I think is RS.
Turtle mode.
So arming is on auxiliary 1. My beep
Buzzer.
gonna be on auxiliary 2. And my turtle mode is gonna be on auxiliary 3. So I gotta remember that. So I'm gonna go back into the configuration tab. Now we're gonna set an auxiliary. So that was aux 1, and it's gonna be on high. And we're gonna find a buzzer, which was aux 2, and that also gonna be on high. And where's a turtle mode? Turtle mode was aux 3, and that is also gonna be on high. And in the case you decide to use a GPS, that's where you're gonna set up your return to home, but I don't have a GPS on this guy. And we're gonna save. Now our next step we're gonna go is in the advanced tab. Now right here we gotta have a couple things to do. First one, I want to set up my flight controller orientation, so we're just gonna check this. Now I had my flight controller flip or turn around. The arrow actually facing this way, so technically this is the front and this is the back, but since I had it turn around, I'm just gonna mess with my yaw. And really, depending on what orientation you do, you're really only gonna have to change your yaw here. You don't really need to mess with roll or pitch. So I have my front and back reverb. So I'm gonna go 180 degree. That's what I'm gonna set it up at. And I'm gonna show you how to check to make sure that your orientation is right. This option here, it literally asks you if you want to have your pop in and out. Launch mode, I don't need it. RC band, I leave mine to 0. And really what RC band is just how sensitive your stick are in the center. I'm not gonna mess with that. Now what I'm gonna change is my serial configuration. So we're gonna check on that. It's gonna give you a warning to make sure you know what you're doing. I know what I'm doing. So we're gonna click and I'm gonna change a couple things. Now I have my DJ set up on serial 6. So we're gonna click on that and we're gonna put it into MSPOSD. Now this VTX here is for your analog VTX. I'm not gonna be using it, so we're just gonna deactivate it and we're gonna just keep it on Kiss protocol OSD. Now going down, since I don't have a buzzer on this build, so I'm gonna activate this function that's gonna allow you to use my motor as a buzzer. Of course, guys, I am showing you how to do the process using a DJI. And this is pretty much the same process if you have an avatar system. And I think it's pretty similar if you have a HD0 system. You still have to just pick MSP OSD. Now, one thing we have still left to do here, I don't touch anything on the screen. What we're going to do, we're going to go all the way down to MSP OSD. All right, guys, so you got all the different systems depending on whatever VTX you have on your drone. And for me, what I'm gonna pick, I don't really know if there's a difference between DJI 03 normal and DJI 03 HD. I'm gonna go with HD. And only thing we have to do now is save. And we are pretty much done with this tab. Then we're gonna go into our data outputs. And now we're gonna work on our motors. So I got the fan on to keep my DJI cool. I'm gonna power on my drone. Now we're gonna test our motor. She's gonna make sure we have the right orientation and the motor are in right order. But since I'm using a FATEC ESC, that should be a much easier process. And of course, at this point, you need to make sure that you have your props off. That's what the warning is all about. And yes, I know what I'm doing. Now, in order to activate your motor, you're gonna need to check this little option. Now we're gonna go ahead and make sure that our motor are in the right order. In case you're wondering, this is the motor order for Kiss. It is completely different than Betaflight. So I'm gonna go one at a time. I'm gonna click here, and to activate your motor, you're gonna need to move your throttle. Okay, so motor 1, let's see if it's where it's supposed to be. Let me move this a little bit down. So my motor 1 is in the right spot. So I'm gonna go motor 2 now. Motor 2 is in the right spot. Motor 3. Motor 3 is good. And of course, motor 4 should be in the right spot. And motor 4 is good. Okay, so this is me from the feature. I need to make a little correction on the video. I think what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna edit that part out. And this has to do with the motor direction on the drone. We are under the data output tab, and I'm gonna show you what I end up doing wrong. As I tell you, my prop direction was prop in, and just to show you, I got it set up, and we're gonna go here and reactivate our motor tab. We're gonna enable all for motor. So prop in is basically reverse direction when it comes to your props. And I'm going reverse here, I'm going reverse here, I'm going reverse here, I'm going reverse here. And for some reason, and all my motor are in reverse. So we're gonna stop this. And what we are going to do, we're gonna go back into the advanced tab. And what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna check this up. But I need to unplug my battery, because when the battery is on, everything is going out. We're gonna disconnect and we're gonna reconnect. There you go. So everything is white. That means you can make changes. And we're gonna go to a tab, advanced tab, and we're gonna click reverse your control, which is just reverse your motor direction. And we are saving. Now remember, I told you earlier, I'm gonna show you how to check your flight controller orientation is right. So you do have where my mouse is. I don't know why it's completely dark. It usually used to be white, but you do have a small little drone. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure that this little model pretty much copy whatever move I make on the drone. So first we're going to go forward, and you can see the motor's going forward. Now I'm going to roll left. It's rolling left. I'm going to roll right. It's rolling right. I'm going to check my yaw. We're going to yaw left. That's good. We're going to yaw right. That's good. And of course, now the stupid thing kind of disconnected on me. Technical issue. Let's see if we can just reconnect. There you go. So we are back on board. So I already know my orientation is right. Now, for some of you guys, if you're using a BLLES or a BLLE32, I want to show you where you can set up your motor orientation and direction of the props in the advanced tab. If you go all the way in the bottom, you do have this function here, which is a custom D-shot routing. That should help you change your motor direction and your prop direction also. And if you go into the configuration tab, you do have the wizard. Mine is not active right now. I know it's just because I'm using, let me just unplug my battery here. I don't know if it's because I'm using a Fcfc ESC, but it is not active. I think if you're using a BLLE, it's going to be active. This wizard kind of work like the motor wizard on Betaflight. It's not as advanced as Betaflight, but I've seen some video on YouTube where people using them. Yeah, it is a much easier process than using this option. This option right here, the custom Betaflight routing. We are almost done with this setup. Only thing I need to do is I need to check the rate. This is where you can change your rate, and those rates actually work okay, but I'm going to put in my rate. Those are the rate I fly with on Kiss. You know, it's very low, but I do use very low rate on Betaflight also. TPA, I'm not going to mess with it. And you got your OSD. Now, from my understanding, if you have an analog system, you can actually configure your whole flight controller just using the goggles. But of course, we do have DJI. I don't think that works with DJI. And that is pretty much it, guys. We have a drone set up. We're going to put some prop in, and we're going to go out for a flight.